Hi, I'm Deborah.
And I'm Lawrence.
And in this video, we're going to talk about how you go about getting your depression diagnosed. Depression is not an easy thing to diagnose. Depression is hidden, but it isn't like getting other hidden illnesses diagnosed. It's not like high blood pressure. It's not like heart disease. There are no physical signs that can be measured. And the problem is also that depression is extremely complicated. It varies from person to person. We used to think that, there were neat categories that it could fit into. And now we know that that's not the case. Even though we have these categories, people are so individual and their depression is so individual that it is not only is it not easy to get a diagnosis in some cases, but it's also not easy to find the right medication if you are going to be on medication.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's depression is different. It's impossible to compare two people's depression.
Yeah.
And, that makes treatment definitely harder, I'd say. Or, well, diagnosis.
Yeah. But we do have basically guidelines.
Yeah.
One thing you could start with to see if there could be some truth to what you feel or what someone else feels, that you're depressed. There are online self-screenings. Now, obviously, these can't take the place of a diagnosis by a medical professional.
Yeah, but you're not going to get the same experience from a BuzzFeed quiz than you are going to get from a doctor.
Well, no, there are actually some self-assessments by reputable.
Yeah, but that's still no
it's not. No, it's not. This is just like a first step to take if you want a little more clarity. So we'll put the links to some of those below. So who should diagnose your depression? Well, that depends on who's available to you. So the ideal situation, for instance, my situation was I talked to my family doctor and said that I thought I had depression. So my doctor knew someone at the mental health clinic of the local hospital, local in the next town. But he helped me make an appointment. I went there. I got diagnosed. They had not only a psychiatrist, but a therapist for me. So that obviously was the ideal situation.
Not everybody's that lucky.
Not everybody is going to be that lucky. Ideally, you would see a psychiatrist for your diagnosis, and if you end up being prescribed medication, that's who you probably would see for your medication. And if you're 18 or under, then what would be ideal for you is a child psychiatrist, because obviously, as you can imagine, if depression is complicated, then it's even more complicated in someone whose brain is developing. So child psychiatrists know more about mental illness in children, obviously, than people who just mainly treat adults would.
Yeah,
or don't specialize in children.
Yeah, everybody's different, and age ranges can also make a difference in your depression.
Yeah,
and so it's good to find somebody that's sometimes you can't find somebody that's specialized in in certain things, but it's good to seek out that kind of person. See if you can find one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, so if, for instance, there isn't a psychiatrist nearby. Especially now that so many doctors have gotten used to treating over Zoom or whatever, this makes more possible the idea that you would see. The ideal thing is to be seen in person, because that actually does help in some ways. But so even if it's like an hour or two that you have to drive for the initial appointment to see a psychiatrist, if possible, you would want to do that.
Yeah.
Now, the next choice would be if you have a primary care physician or pediatrician who is someone who is caring and well informed and committed to their patients' physical and mental health. If you do not have access to a psychiatrist, that is a good choice, as is a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant. I've several health problems, and I have found in one situation I could not stand the doctor, and what I did is I actually ended up seeing the nurse practitioner, who was wonderful. And in certain situations when, for instance, my neurologist couldn't see me, I'm very comfortable seeing her physician's assistant, who I feel is extremely knowledgeable and caring. So, the important thing is that you see someone who you feel is taking you seriously, is committed to your getting a diagnosis and treatment, and seems to be also up on the literature. Like, once in a while you run into someone who, for instance, a psychopharmacologist is a psychiatrist who really only
specializes
they specialize in medication. So one psychiatrist I had was not a psychopharmacologist, but he was extremely interested in antidepressants, and all kinds of medications. So he almost was like a psychopharmacologist because he was interested in it, he read up on it a lot. So really, at the bottom of it is definitely someone who's committed to your your recovery, and not cure, because there's no cure for depression.
Your care.
Yeah, your recovery
One letter off.
Well, your recovery from depression, and someone who is well informed.
I mean, I've had my fair share of experiences with therapists, psychiatrists, psychopharmacologists. I've had really bad therapists. I've had a singular really good therapist. I've had a psychiatrist who was barely a psychiatrist, pretty much exclusively psychopharmacologist. His questions about me boiled down to, how's school? How are you feeling? Here's some medication. And,
and also the guy you saw for your ADHD meds, same thing.
Yeah.
Just had weighed Lawrence to see what amount of medication to prescribe him. He never even asked how Lawrence was doing, really, I don't think.
No. Sometimes, it takes a couple tries to find somebody you can work well with.
Yeah.
But it's important to find somebody. Don't settle for somebody that is all right.
Yeah.
Settle for somebody you are confident is good at their job and can actually make a difference in your life.
Yeah. We say this about therapists, but it's also true about doctors. You have to get the feeling that this person cares. If they don't care, then you are not getting the best treatment you should be getting. Mm-hmm. That's just the bottom line. So, by the way, if you feel that you cannot afford treatment, we did make a video
about affordable treatment options.
And we'll link to it up there.
Yeah.
So once you have an appointment, what you want to do to help the doctor is, first of all, come up with a list of any ancestors, one in the family who has had mental health issues, and the relationship. Write that down. Write down, obviously, any medications you're taking. And one good thing would be to start keeping a log of each day of your mood and any symptoms. Remember, don't forget physical symptoms. A lot of people don't know this, but there actually can be physical symptoms with depression. It's a lot more common than uncommon. So write down any physical symptoms, any triggers. Like, for instance, for me, if I'm sick, my mood tends to go down. So everything that might help the doctor, figure this out. So when you see the doctor or medical professional or whatever, one thing they really have to do is rule out any physical cause, underlying physical conditions that you don't know about. So, for instance, thyroid problems. There are a lot of things that could lead to depression. So, you really actually should have a complete physical.
Yeah.
And as I said, there is no way to do tests for depression, like drawing blood or anything like that. However, any possible physical causes or contributing factors have to be ruled out.
Yeah.
So when you see the medical professional, what they will do, what they should do, unless they're, as I said, like not really committed to doing a great job, they should probably the first appointment will be an hour. Because what they need to do is not only look at your list of, family history, but also they're going to ask about your history with, they may ask about circumstances in your life. For instance, my depression seemed to start when we moved for the 10th or 12th time. I don't know, something like that. So that is something that, might tell a doctor that, this finally triggered a depression after we had moved so many times. They'll ask about your current circumstances. They'll ask about your past circumstances. I
don't think they'll be asking about your future experiences. But...
No. But they'll probably ask about your current home life situation. So obviously you would answer as honestly as you could. And they'll also try to determine if you've had past episodes, for instance, of major depression. In my case, for instance, I had a couple that I didn't realize were depression until I got my diagnosis. So, they're looking for patterns. What they're doing is they're comparing your symptoms against the list in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM. So the way you're diagnosed is that supposedly out of this X number of list of symptoms, you have to have, I can't remember off the top of my head, how many of them
number
for at least 2 weeks. So then that's like the nice, neat way that they're supposed to do it. A good mental health professional will go beyond how many of these symptoms do they check off. If there are 10 symptoms and theoretically you're supposed to check off 8 of them, if you have 7 of them but are obviously in distress, a good mental health professional will not say, well, okay,
you're not depressed.
You're not depressed. So that's why it's so important to find someone who's good at what they do and who cares about finding the answer. Remember also that depression falls on a continuum. It would be nice if we could, everything was very clearly packaged into, mild depression, moderate depression, and major depression, but it's not. So, so that's why, that's why this is definitely a complicated diagnosis. So in a future video, we'll talk about treatment. So we're not going to cover this here, but the most important thing, I think, is if you come away from the appointment feeling like you weren't heard, like either the person tuned out or they were incompetent, or they just didn't care, or whatever.
Whatever the case may be.
If you have another option, if you have the option to see another medical professional, then you want to make another appointment. First, check with your insurance to make sure that, and explain to your insurance, if you have insurance, that, that you were not happy with this. Or, in that case, for instance, let's say you saw a psychiatrist you didn't like, then maybe if you look at your primary care physician and you feel this is someone that is knowledgeable and cares, then maybe check with them. But the important thing is to find someone who listens to you, who cares about your recovery,
and who doesn't suck at their job.
Right, is knowledgeable.
Those two last things are, knowledgeable, doesn't suck at their job, about the same thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, if you found this video helpful, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. If you'd like to say anything at all, you can leave in the form of a comment. And if you'd like to see more content like this, you're welcome to subscribe. In any case, though, we hope that you have a nice day.
Take care.